Chapters 1 to 5 are part 1 of the book, with coverage of DeFi specific, or what I call crypto native DeFi. Chapter 1 is what is DeFi. Chapter 2 is infrastructure and instruments. Chapter 3, activities and applications. Chapter 4, risks and mitigation. And Chapter 5, regulation. So for a lot of the crypto natives, chapters 1 to 3 will not be new to you, but they are kind of more formal definitions also of what DeFi really is. And I also offer my own definitions of DeFi, which is a really kind of a broad definition of DeFi that it's really finance being conducted on blockchains, right? And the use of blockchains really disintermediates centralized entities. So, Chapter 1 covers the topic broadly from a top-down level, from the roles of intermediaries, the TVL of DeFi, the size of the market, the participants in DeFi, what's the difference between DeFi and FinTech, how can you try DeFi, where is DeFi meeting TradFi, and what the risks are of DeFi, which are really covered more comprehensively in Chapter 4. Chapter 2 is really based around Ethereum, which of course was the sort of the key infrastructure to DeFi getting started in the first place, right? Without smart contracts, there wouldn't be no DeFi. So it's an exploration of how Ethereum actually works and the basics of blockchains, right? And what the evolutionary thread was from, say, Bitcoin and then Ethereum. We get into sort of the characteristics of L1s. Ethereum is not the only L1. What are accounts, keys, wallets? What are transactions like in Ethereum? Smart contracts, clients and nodes, block explorers, custody, oracles, identity bridges, stablecoins, derivatives, and so forth. Chapter 3 is we're getting higher and higher in the software stack. So Chapter 3 is really about the applications of what most people would see in DeFi. Right? When you interact with, say, Uniswap of Aave, that's the front end of what you would see for DeFi, right? And that's where, of course, I'm trying to make an analogy from TradFi, which is to say, in terms of trading, lending, borrowing, investing, saving, paying, insuring. What are the similarities in DeFi? How would you go about doing these things, and how far are we in DeFi with these verbs, so to speak, in finance? Right. So, Chapter 3 is really examining how these applications work. In particular, I go into how automated market makers work, such as Uniswap. I also talk about Aave and how Aave works in terms of its function as a lending borrowing protocol, which of course lending and borrowing works differently in DeFi. And then we go into the other sort of applications of DeFi, and there's of course a lot of things within DeFi that don't work in quite the same way as TradFi. In Chapter 4, which is kind of a very important chapter, is around the risks of DeFi, right? As you all know, and as the media has already told you many times, it is very risky. It is very, very risky. You could certainly lose all of your assets through hacks, through a rug pull, through some kind of admin hack, and many things can go wrong in crypto and DeFi, right? As much as the sort of the pace of innovation is very rapid, there are many things that do need to be patched up within DeFi, right? So Chapter 4 is kind of separated within endogenous risks, which are around the risks inherent to DeFi, and exogenous risks, which are actually risks that the man in the street doesn't really look at. Right, exogenous risks are more risks at the international regulatory and standard setting level, which is also pieced together from a lot of reports from, say, the FSB, IMF, IOSCO, the BIS. Right, so when they are taking that kind of viewpoint of looking at DeFi and seeing what threats it represents to the financial system as a whole, this represents kind of a viewpoint of exogenous risk. What kind of risk does DeFi pose to the traditional banking and financial system, right? And I think this perspective is also pretty valuable for a lot of crypto natives, because this is not something we we don't ordinarily look at kind of financial stability risks, shall we say. But as we kind of think about the future of the industry, thinking about how we mitigate these all risks, so to speak, endogenous and exogenous, is also going to be very important. Right? In Chapter 5, and then in Chapter 5, we look at the global nature of crypto and DeFi with kind of again a top-down perspective. It's been kind of nearly impossible it would be impossible to cover every country in depth. So again, taking a broad top-down perspective, looking at, say, the standard settings bodies, the EU and the US, what kind of regulation is kind of on the forefront. And we take a look at, especially at the markets in crypto assets legislation that the EU has already signed into law. Right? And then Chapter 6 is really about central bank digital currencies. So this is quite a jump for a lot of the crypto natives, where we're moving into how central bankers think. Right? Why would a central banker want to issue a central bank digital currency in the first place, right? And of course, the motivations for issuing a CBDC are going to be a lot more complicated than issuing a crypto coin, right? Because it's policy, it's law, it's society, it's so many things involved with a central bank digital currency. So a lot of Chapter 6 is actually spent defining what a retail CBDC is, what a wholesale CBDC is, and with particular focus to reports from the Bank of International Settlements, which has been really key in terms of developing the theory, if you will, or at least the literature around central bank digital currencies, right? And then we take sort of 3 case studies, looking at China. We look at some of the work that's been done in the US with CBDCs. Not that the US is going to issue a CBDC anytime soon. And we also look at the Nigerian e-Naira, which is also a very interesting case of an African country which is actually the largest CBDC project, as far as I know, with a population of about 200 million. And yeah, so far it is the largest RCBDC, or retail CBDC project, quite yet. So that's 6. 7 is around asset tokenization, which is kind of the broad, study or look at how tokenization is happening with any kind of asset, right? And why would you tokenize an asset? Why would you tokenize a stock? And how tokenization might transform capital markets as a whole, right? And again, taking some sort of view from, say, the GFMA, which has produced a very good report on DLT in capital markets. From 7, we go to 8, which is around deposit tokens. Deposit tokens are, of course, the specific application of tokenization with bank deposits, which is another very exciting area of innovation. that actually it looks to be a competitor to stablecoins, if I can put it that way, because in a way you can think about it as the implementation of DLT within commercial banking, right? And we have several projects, several projects that are already underway, and we kind of see where the frontier is for deposit tokens. With, say, the regulated liability network, the work that JP Morgan is doing with Onyx, and some work that's been coming out from the German Banking Association also. Chapter 9 is around institutional DeFi, right? And institutional DeFi is, again, a very new concept that actually was maybe first discussed with Aave and Compound, looking to do sort of allow for institutions to get access to yield from DeFi, but also satisfying their compliance requirements. But that definition of institutional DeFi has also evolved into, say, projects like Project Guardian, that was kind of pushed out by the Monetary Authority of Singapore last year. And that was a very exciting, it is still going on. It's a very exciting project that basically puts together a lot of the building blocks from both crypto native DeFi with automated market makers, and also tokenized equities, tokenized FX, and so forth, and sort of allowing it to operate in a regulated environment with all of the risk management, but also looking to get the benefits of automated market makers, right? With the ability to stake and the ability to settle quickly, and for it to have smart contract functionality and so forth. Right, and so we take a look at some of the work that's been done in institutional DeFi. We take a look at what the BIS calls the Unified Ledger. And finally, in Chapter 10, which is the conclusion, I break up the conclusion into three parts. The Crypto Fiat Innovation Dialectic, which is kind of a theory that I would like to suggest with the innovation that's occurring between crypto and fiat. And then I go into the future scenarios for DeFi, which are around sort of whether or not it's going to integrate, whether or not DeFi is going to integrate with TradFi, and I paint out various scenarios for that. And then I conclude with the future of money as a whole, right? So the book really is covering substantial ground, right? And the aim for this book really is to actually start a more nuanced conversation about DeFi, crypto, and DLT and digital assets, because a lot of the conversations around crypto have been very reductive, right? They've been very sensational. As I speak, the FTX case is of course ongoing, and all of the major media is covering the FTX case because there's just so much dirt in it. Everyone's fascinated by the level of duplicity in these individuals involved. But you know, it's sad because it takes away so much of the attention from the actual technology and the potential of DeFi. Right, so the aim for my book is really not to give you opinions. It's not actually meant for me, as a platform for me to give too much of my opinions. I do that in Chapter 10. But most of it, from Chapter 1 to Chapter 9, are what I hope to think are factual. Right, that is to say, they explain to you the mechanics of how it works. I try to be as ideologically neutral as I can. And then you can make the decisions for yourself. Then you can understand how it actually works, right? Without too much overlay of emotion and sort of morals, if you will. Yeah. So that's the book. That's the content of the book. and I hope to also continue this discussion as I am doing here with this camera in front of me. I think YouTube is actually a really powerful venue for these conversations. It's a very easy venue also because writing takes a tremendous amount of work, and sometimes you just need to voice these things out physically, and it also works better with the audience. So I hope you enjoy reading the book wherever and whenever you're watching this, and I look forward to your feedback.